There's nothing more festive than a bottle of champagne and fresh-made Gougères. Whether you're enjoying a quiet evening at home or celebrating a special occasion, champagne and Gougères just go together. To make Gougères, you'll need 1/2 cup of whole milk, 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 to 4 eggs at room temperature, 1 cup of grated cheddar cheese, and 1 cup of Gougères cheese. You'll need to preheat your oven to 425, and we'll be baking these Gougères on a baking sheet. Our wine choice for the Gougères is champagne. With a flat bottom pan on flame, we're going to add our stick of butter, 1/2 cup of whole milk, and a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to melt the butter, dissolve the salt, and bring this to a gentle boil. So our mixture has now reached what I call a healthy simmer. I'm giving it one last stir, and now I'm going to remove it from the heat and stir in the flour. Dump your flour in all at once and start beating it vigorously to incorporate the milk and the butter and the flour. And then we're going to return it to the heat and cook it for an additional 2 minutes to cook out the flour taste. When I was in the class in France learning to make these, this was the job I was given, and I think I stood at that stove for probably, it felt like about a half an hour beating this mixture to death and pushing it around the pan, but in reality it's really only 2 minutes. The only thing you need to guard against is it will form a film on the bottom of the pan, and you just want to make sure that you don't disrupt that film and incorporate it into the mixture. So you need a wooden spoon, and you just need to keep the mixture moving. The mixture is cooked for 2 minutes, and now I'm just taking it off the heat, transferring it to a plate so that we can dissipate some of the heat before it goes into the blender or food processor before we add our eggs. Into the blender, poke your mixture around with a spatula, and then you want to put your hand actually in there and touch it, and if it's warm to your fingers but not hot, it's time to accept the eggs. We'll start adding, I'm going to start with 3 eggs, but I'm going to add them one at a time. And I have a 4th egg if I need it. Cover my blender. You can see that our mixture is smooth and silky, and now it's time to stir in the cheese. 1 cup of cheddar, and 1 cup of cheddar. Stir it all together. Using my small scoop once again, definitely one of my favorite kitchen tools. Placing them on a parchment lined baking sheet, about like you would do cookie dough. These will kind of puff up a little bit, so you need to leave some space between them. I have 15 beautiful Gougères in the oven baking, and I had 11 left over. So I put them on a baking sheet, which I will now put in the freezer and freeze these until they're solid, and then I'll transfer them into a Ziploc bag. So the next time I need some fresh Gougères, like for New Year's Eve for instance, they're already made. I take them out of the freezer, I put them on a baking sheet, and bake them at 425 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. Our recommended wine with Gougères is champagne. Savory, salty Gougères pair beautifully with a good quality champagne. Our favorite is Veuve Clicquot. Veuve Clicquot was founded in 1772. After her husband died suddenly at the age of 30, she was only 27 when she took over the business. becoming one of the first women in the early 1800s to run an international company. The widow Clicquot inspired a character in my husband's novel, Their Golden Dreams. There are several excellent French champagnes, ranging in price from $50 up. On one of our trips to Paris, my husband and I went to the Georges V Hotel for a glass of Clicquot in their lounge. We paid over $60 a glass for that experience, but it's truly an experience we will never forget, and Clicquot has remained our favorite champagne.